Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another deep dive episode of Severance by Story Archives. I'm your host, Mario Busto, alongside
the other host, Zachary Newton. Welcome back.
I felt like I was very AI sounding on that opener right there, but you know what? You were so enthusiastic when you introduced yourself, Zach, that we're going to keep it as is. We're back with the deep dive. This one is titled, Who is Alive? And surprising to say, we're in episode 3, and things are happening that I thought wouldn't happen until like episode 7. So we got a whole mess of things in this episode. We got an answer to the goats. Probably, I mean, we could end it right there and just talk about the goats all episode and the pouchless belly phenomenon and the weird guy in the black goat suit who's apparently enamored by the fact that his Audi is really good at stargazing. We learned about the export hall, which is the drawing that we have been getting teased with since season 1. We finally got a full look at Dylan's entire family, his 3 children, I'm a little bit concerned with how close he's sitting to the TV. And I'm also concerned that Dylan actually might be a screw up. It seems like he cannot even bake cookies, that he needs his wife to give him instructions on how to do that. And it seems like we're on a collision course very quickly towards any Audi affair going on in the Dylan G household.
Yeah, it seems like Dylan's innie's a lot more competent than his Audi, that's for sure.
We got Mark with devising this plan of his to try to get a message to his innie, which got rudely interrupted while he was busy trying to burn his retinas by this woman who pops up out of nowhere, Asal Ragabi, whatever the hell her name is. First time we've seen her since they pretty much, I think they killed some guy from Lumen, like hit him in the back of the head with a bat. So there was that. We got, I think I'm missing something. We got this sort of tease of whether Helly or Helena is even going and getting severed when they go down to the severed floor. So that was weird. We got Black Keir out of nowhere. That was interesting. It doesn't seem like Seth Milchick is very interested in blackwashing Keir Egan's history. It seemed like there was the first sort of chink in his Lumen armor. Look of it.
He was a little turned off by that.
Yeah.
At least that's what it felt like.
Yeah, we got.
Then we also have Cobell, who's running away, running back, and then running away again.
Yeah, that was very interesting. What was that hose on the floor?
Yeah, that I wasn't quite following. It looked like it was like a mask, like what you would see with like a CPAP
I was
machine.
going to say, it looked like a CPAP hose, but I didn't want to say something stupid, so you said it for me. But it looked just like a CPAP hose. Because the hose didn't look strong enough to like kill herself with it. I was wondering if, how it's like, well, I was going to say Mad Men, but like when people get a hose and they try to kill themselves and they put it in the car, I was like, that's not the type of hose that people typically use for. That literally looked like what you just said, a CPAP kind of sleep apnea machine, which is an odd detail. Why show that hose?
There was a flashback though, I didn't catch the significance of it, but I swear there was like a flashback of Cobell and this hose and something else. But yeah, I don't know why she's carrying it with her at the very least.
Yeah, neither do I. Lastly, we got Mark getting his reintegration on, which we get another epic sequence once again. One we got to start the season, to open the opening for season 1. I mean for season 2, episode 1. And now we get this epic closer for episode 3, which was brilliantly cut together, I think. Sound design, everything was just pretty great with that. And it does leave me wondering, where do we pick up from here? But that's a question I will ask towards the end of the episode. Zach, what were your overall impressions of episode 3?
I absolutely loved it. This one felt on pace with episode 1 for the most part. I was wondering how we were going to get through this season without it feeling like it was, I don't want to say dragging, right? That's not really what I want, but I was wondering how they were really going to kind of pick up the pace, right? Like, because if we got like a whole nother season of just like any Mark questioning things, and like that's as far as we got, was just him continuing to question things, I don't think it would have been a very satisfying end. But I think this is a really interesting flip that happened a lot sooner than I would have expected it to happen. I thought this reintegration. I mean, you said episode 7. Like, I definitely figured if this was going to happen, it would be later on in the season. Not saying at the very end, but pretty darn close to.
Yeah.
So
it was so
I'm
early
excited.
that part of me was like, I kind of didn't want it this early. I kind of wanted it like an episode from now, which is crazy to say, right? Usually that's the opposite with shows where you're like, oh, are you going to really do this cliffhanger to end the season again? Mm-hmm. No. It seems like they're just serving us straight up the good stuff.
Yeah.
I will say one thing I didn't like in this episode that I probably would have made a different creative choice, but I'm sure they had a great reason for it, and it's going to be better than what I'm thinking. Do you know what it was?
No, I honestly have no idea. There wasn't really anything that jumped out at me in this episode as something I would want to change.
Okay, so what I would have wanted to change is I think they had two avenues, or maybe 3 avenues to go with here, with Dylan and his family. I probably would have not made the decision to reveal that his wife actually did go down there. Mm-hmm. They made the decision to show us that in reality that is the real Gretchen. Okay? Yeah. I kind of would have wanted the is it her, is it not sort of mystery of the entire thing to kind of make me wonder the entire time. Similar to how they're not directly telling us whether Helena is getting severed when she goes down there or not. That's kind of what I would have wanted for Dylan's storyline. However, they did essentially explain why she would agree to do something like this, and it's because she's gonna go work night shifts. These people are obviously tight on money, right? But I mean, I think there's a multitude of things going on here. I think maybe they're tight on money. I think I wrote down in my notes, this can't be the real her, because she essentially admitted that her husband's a screw up. Right?
So did I. I was completely willing to throw out a bet on this episode
that it wasn't her.
That was not his wife.
See,
and then I just got rugged 2 minutes later.
100%. Now the thing with that is, I thought they were going to try to do this sort of arc with Dylan, that they were going to pin any Dylan against outie Dylan, that they were both going to be in love with the same woman, and so he would want to he would be essentially very pliable and usable by the powers that be at Lumen, right? Because he's in love with this girl now. But now, I mean, we still may be heading there, right? We're probably still heading there, to be honest with you. But now there's going to be some sense of that Gretchen is seeing the man that she fell in love with originally, rather than this guy who doesn't know how to bake cookies on the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have to learn more about Dylan and what it is. Is he just a guy out of his luck and he just wanted to show that he could be a provider? And damn it, does Lumen not pay well enough that the wife can stay at home?
I don't know. I mean, we were talking about this in the last episode. Like, what do they pay these guys? I mean,
don't get me wrong.
I thought it was a decent chunk of change. Clearly, it's not.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Before the feminists start going crazy in the chat, if she actually enjoyed her job, fantastic. Go work 3 jobs if you want. But she didn't look all that enthused to go to work. Okay, and she didn't look all that enthused to have to be explaining to her husband, hey Dylan, the way you make the cookies is you slice them. It's a cylinder. And you just cut them and you just throw them in the oven.
I mean, I would probably need to be told that information. So there's that.
Yeah.
Nah, I can make a cookie. I can make a good cookie.
Did you really? Were you in that moment where you're like, damn it? I would need the instructions of how to make these cookies.
No, but I was thinking, I'm like, thank God that wasn't the laundry machine, because that I would need some instructions on.
Listen, there's usually, just to give you some tips, there's some instructions usually on every single thing you cook, for the most part, that'll tell you some basic instructions. That should be a segment that we do. Zach doing things that he's never done before.
Yeah, Zach doing normal human things. My wife makes fun of me about that all the time. She's like, you don't know how to human. I'm like, probably not.
Yeah. Let's talk about Cobell a little bit. I think I'm not all too certain whether that board meeting, which we're going to talk about the board in a bit, whether that was going to be her death or whether they were going to do some sort of reset with her, like Helena said. Cobell did catch on. I think she realized this was her last dying moment of whatever leverage she has to use it. And I think maybe she sensed danger like an animal, just kind of animal instinct, just sensed her end in some way. And then I was thinking to myself, what leverage does she even have? But then I realized she has the information about Cold Harbor. Yeah. So she could pretty much destroy whatever plans that they have. Like, she could kind of wreck them, which then made me wonder, why would a company like Lumen that seems to have everything so, tied up neatly, why would they allow this person to still be roaming out there rogue with this information? Any guesses?
Well, I was assuming that they were probably waiting for her to, take this upgrade or promotion or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think this kind of goes back to my theory on the fact that I do think Cobell and Milchick are severed. Like definitely severed in a way where like they can just flip that part of their brain off and it's done. It's forever. And that's kind of what I thought they were going to do. Like, I didn't necessarily think they were going to kill her. I thought they were going to like bring her in and then just like shut her brain off and turn her into this other version of herself that has no idea what Lumen does or what the severed floor is or does either.
So you're on the Cobell is severed train completely.
100. I mean, it is one of my bets. It's either Milchick.
Did I say no to that bet?
You did take odds on that. No. Remember we were talking about how it's brave. Yeah.
Damn. I'm going to lose that one for sure. I think I all but admitted I was probably going to lose that one. I
think you did. You did say you felt you would admit it, but you know what? It's the brave ones that threw out the early bets that tend to get the biggest wins.
Well, Milchick did mention Mark's courage, so maybe my innie is more courageous than the Audi who does this podcast. Wait. Anyways, Cobell, let's talk about this. Cobell slept in sub-zero temperature, in a sub-zero temperature car. That car doesn't really look like it has a working heater.
No, it's an old rabbit, right?
She's pretty vivacious to have survived the night there.
It did look pretty cold in the dead, like middle of nowhere.
Fargo vibes, 100%. Okay, it kind of sucks that. Because we got this whole tease with Mark's plan. He's timing himself into the building, trying to burn the image into his retinas. All for Assault to just come in and say, it won't work.
Yeah.
So, like, we kind of got, like, a whole thing, and it just for it to turn into nothing. But that is kind of realistic in life. Sometimes you make a plan, and it just is not going to work. You have to change the plan. So that kind of makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is how she just popped up out of nowhere, other than the only explanation being that is her place. And why would Mark just decide to go there to do that? Did he get the information from Beatty?
See, that's what I don't know. I don't understand why he would drive out there to do that. Like, I would have tried to do that in my basement. Why get in the car and go somewhere? Like, who's going to see you? Cobell took off and screamed at you and drove away.
Point. Why did he?
Who else?
Why did he try to do that? Unless he needed to go. Yeah, but then again, he could have just walked for the amount of time in his house.
He doesn't even need to walk. He just needs to count.
Yeah,
he's not walking anywhere. He's burning his retinas and then he's closing his eyes and counting to see how long he can still see that image.
What was he gonna do? Run inside the building with his eyes closed?
No, well, that I would hope not, because that would be a little fishy.
To keep it as strong as possible, he would have had to kind of run with his eyes close to the door at least. Right?
See, I don't know. I feel like
you should test this.
Opening your eyes and blinking helps, because I mean, look, I've looked at very bright lights before, and like back in the day when I was doing lighting engineering, many times have I looked down the barrel of a very bright light.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I always remember seeing the thing more when I would like blink rapidly versus just like keep my eyes shut. Because then when you keep your eyes shut, it seems to just like, I don't know, dilate your eyes again.
Yeah.
So
you're saying opening your eyes helps you keep like a vision longer than closing them.
That's what I feel. At least I remember when I was blinded by lights, but I could be totally wrong. I don't know the science behind that.
I think you have your point. You know what else helps with like seeing things is there's a button that says subscribe underneath this video right now. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you want to see more of us, keep your eyes open, hit the subscribe button, and keep an eye on your feed on Thursdays and Sundays, and you'll be able to tune into our Instant Reaction and Deep Dive podcast every week.
Yeah, and you can burn your retinas with our beautiful faces.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a picture worth remembering.
Yeah. Okay, back to the show. So Mark does get down to the office, and he has this whole plan to find Miss Casey. But the thing is that every member of this office now has their own agenda. Okay, you got Dylan, who wants to stay behind because he knows he's going to meet his family, right? Or his wife. You got Irv, who wants to find the hallway. You got Helly, who I think everybody who's watching this show right now doesn't believe she's severed. At least that she's not, transitioning to her severed mode when she goes down to the severed floor, which I guess makes it now officially possible to go to the severed floor not being severed, if that's the case. And she seems to be trying to keep Mark on track to finish Cold Harbor, but she's struggling because she kind of has feelings for him too.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point. I didn't really think about the fact that it does feel like she is trying to help him finish Cold Harbor. I thought it was just like keeping a close eye on him, but it does feel very much like she was here to kind of like egg him on and, or keep pushing him essentially, which just makes me wonder, like, what the heck is Cold Harbor? Well, like, is this just like them trying to prove that this individual can reunite with his wife or something stupid like that? Like, what is it? What's the outcome?
I had a theory. Did we go over this theory last episode? I don't know. I think we got to go through the comments to find it, but there's a theory about what it is they're doing, the work that it is. What is the work that they're doing, and what does it pertain to Miss Casey or Gemma, her real name? And I think it's pretty interesting. And it also explains, like, look, you're watching this episode and you're saying, okay, if these people were truly scared of these four wandering the halls, they wouldn't be letting them do it without supervision. And it seems like the same way that Dylan is being supervised by Huang, that they are being, like, Helly's with Mark, which is the most important person, right? To this operation that we found out last episode. Yeah. And she's keeping tabs on him, which is the reason why Milchick shows up to work after everybody gets there, right? And then maybe the one wild card here of this group is going to be Irv, because he's kind of near the retirement age, and he's caught wind of this hallway, and nobody's keeping tabs on Irv for the most part. And that's probably the guy who's going to come in clutch of everybody, in my opinion. Yeah. I imagine, we'll probably get a decent chunk of him in the next episode. I mean, we only got a little snippet of Irv and Felicia. That was a touching moment. Yeah, they were like sharing memories of Bird, and she kind of accidentally sees... she accidentally sees the hallway picture, but she doesn't think much of it. She just asks, how did you find out about this? And we find out that O&R, what are they, O&D? O&D. O&D used to make deliveries there, but now they don't, and a guy does the deliveries. Now, who's the man? Is it the same man that was in the background of the opening scene in episode 1 that I pointed out? The tall white guy, kind of big white guy. Maybe it's him. Who knows? But I'm sure we're going to get... The hallway feels like an end of season type of thing. Doesn't it? You think? You think it's that deep? Now I don't know, because they just freaking reintegrated Mark in episode 3. Yeah. It depends. Is this going to be an 8 episode season, or is this a 10 episode season? I can do some digging on that in the background. Yeah, sure. I thought it was 10, but maybe it could be 8. Maybe it's more than 10. I feel like most of Apple's shows... Are 10? Are 10, aren't they? I mean, season 1... that was like 9 episodes actually. Season 2 looks like it's slated to be 10 episodes. 10 episodes. Yeah. Okay, so interesting. So something has to happen, like sort of a midway point, that adds more material of what it is. Like, just think about it. Mark's going to be reintegrated next episode. Now, is it permanent? Is he going to die now, like Petey too? That's another question. But we'll talk about that maybe later in the episode. What do you think the effects are going to be of the surgery?
I don't think he's going to die. I mean, Asal she's much better at this now, right? I feel like it's going to be a lot like seeing somebody experience motion sickness or something along those lines. Like, I just feel like there's just going to be this very disorienting thing that's going to happen to him just randomly. I imagine that will go away over time. Like, I don't think it's a permanent thing. I think he's going to just continue to heal and, I guess, unify these. Well, it's going to be... I was going to say two halves of his brain, but two different wavelengths that is running in his brain.
It's going to be very fun. I don't know why this popped into my mind first, but you're going to get that sort of dynamic where in Harry Potter, when Ron and Harry drink the polyjuice potion and turn into Crab and Boyle, whatever. And they get to see inside of the Slytherin common room and all that stuff. Like, they're in a place they're not supposed to be. You're going to get that vibe completely now of Mark going in there first day back, kind of learning these things and piecing this puzzle together, which I get we did need to get here eventually with one of the characters. We did get the innies outside. Now you needed the outies on the inside. And and is he going to get all of them now to kind of, now that it worked for him? To
sever?
Yeah, he's going to get...
Or to unsever.
He's going to try to get them all, and then in trying to get them to reintegrate, maybe that's when he discovers who Helly is. Because remember, Helly never said who she was.
No.
Right? So he's going to know now. And he's going to come to a realization of who Helly is. And he's going to be looking at her in a whole different light now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's for sure. Do you think Mark S. is going to call out sick in the next episode?
Dude, I would be in a hurry to get back to work if I found out my wife was alive inside of the place.
Unless you're vomiting all over the place because you've just got like motion sickness, or
could be
like you're just so disoriented, like you can't even walk straight.
If he starts vomiting, then he's going down the route of Petey, which would suck.
And maybe they do that to kind of like tease us and make us think like, oh shit, he's gonna die. This beloved character of mine, he's gonna die. But I don't think he is. I think he's gonna recover.
No, dude, he is the show.
He'll be good.
He's the show.
He's straight.
He's the show.
Yeah.
He's the show. Okay, Natalie and the board. Let's talk about this board, man. I'm starting to believe that they do not exist.
Yes. So I had said when we watched season 2, it was a question of mine. I was like, does the board even exist? I feel like I threw out the idea of like, it might just be this like AI thing. I like to bring that up every now and then. I'll tell you what though, the way Natalie talks is very robotic. It just makes me think even more that it's like a freaking computer, if it's a thing at all.
I think she's a severed individual as well, if I had to guess.
I feel like it's like a rite of passage to work down on the severed floor. You actually you have to be severed. It's just, there's different protocols for when your innie and outie are alive.
It was so funny to me that they presented Milchick with a black Keir. Like, hey, we really want you to... Because remember, Cobell was obsessed with Keir. Maybe saw him sort of like a father figure, this godlike type of figure. And they were like, oh, you know what? Milchick's not going to be able to relate to this old white guy, so we're going to make him an old black guy. Right?
It's so not what I was expecting. I didn't know
I was expecting it. I was expecting it when I saw... the moment she said that line right before they opened the box, I was like, no way they're going to give him a black Keir. And sure enough, that's what it was. That's crazy.
I thought it was just going to be some really weird, like, paintings like we see throughout, I guess, the severed floor, where it almost looks like individuals being tortured. Like, I thought it was just going to be like some weird thing like that, but no, it's just like a bunch of self-portraits.
Maybe Keir's more of a symbol. Maybe he's not... Maybe he doesn't even look like what we thought he looked like. Maybe they only make him look like whatever they want in terms of making him resonate with these people, right?
It does seem like his...
Be like James Bond.
persona's been tainted a bit over the years. However, Helly's father, I feel like looks a lot like what I would expect Keir to look like.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, from the hall of whatever it was.
What did you think of Natalie in this episode? Did you get the sense that she was a little bit uncomfortable with the whole portrait handing to Milchick and that whole scene? The rest of the scene, she seemed natural to me, but that particular moment was a little bit, something was different about her in that scene.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because she seemed perfectly normal in a very robotic and human way in every part of this episode, except for the moment, I think, where Milchick kind of like raised his eyebrow and was like, this seems a little weird.
Yeah.
And then she seemed to get uncomfortable in that situation. So I don't know if it was her actually thinking that this is actually weird, or if she was just becoming more suspicious of Milchick. Like, why are you not
enjoying
very
this?
Grateful?
Well,
Yeah.
It did definitely seem to be a turning point for Milchick. I do think it'll be a slow burn till whenever he has the courage to do whatever he might do. But he does immediately, well, later in the episode, take those photos and just pretty much hide them in storage. Kind of like what you do with something you don't want to see or be reminded of, So you just kind of just throw it in your closet somewhere and just like leave it in there. It's kind of what he did. He kind of just put it on top of these boxes and like, if I don't think about it, we can just kind of forget this ever happened. And, I don't ever have to see these photos
put
again.
this behind us. Yeah.
Exactly. Natalie does go visit Rickon. And apparently she wants the what is it? The UUR? The UUR. But she wants an any version of that. I guess pretty much she wants him to write a propaganda book, which he's just going for hook, line, and sinker. Maybe because she's pretty and he's like biting into it. But I did write in my notes, is everyone just brain dead in this town besides Devin? Like, nobody questions these Lumen people showing up at your house at 10 p.m. making these requests of you that are so obviously, twisted towards their own needs.
Agenda. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it is very weird. It makes me think Rickon is, I mean, I've kind of always thought Rickon was an idiot in the show. But when you compare him to what seems to be the majority of everybody else that's portrayed in the show, he's the only one that seems to wake up and call them out on this severed thing just being bad all around, which makes me surprised that he's like so into this idea of a special version for the innies. It's not like there's that much fame in it.
Well, I think he likes the attention first and foremost. I do think he's principled though, and I'm gonna make my second Harry Potter comparison of the episode. He's kind of like a Professor Trelawney, where she's the divination course, but she's also a prophet in some sense, like where she can, or seer, so she can see and kind of like read the tea leaves, right? And most of the stuff she says is absolute nonsense. Okay, it's fake, it's baloney, it's bullcrap. But then there's like two moments in the entire Harry Potter series. One that they don't cover very well in the movies, but they do cover it well in the novels, which is, I'll say the first one, which is less important, but it's when Harry sees essentially the dog in the teacup, which is representative of Sirius Black. And then the more important one is in the Order of the Phoenix, when she literally prophesies something, which is critically important to the series that the movies left out entirely. But it's kind of like that, like this woman who's kind of like a bozo 90% of the time, but then there's like 10% of just like brilliance, and that what she's saying needs to be paid attention to. That's kind of Rickon. Like, he's 100% spot on with the book he wrote is for the innies. That's the ironic part of it. It's not for the outies. Yeah. It's for the innies. So he's brilliant in that sense, but he doesn't even know it. And neither does outie Mark, by the way, which maybe reintegration would make him appreciate his brother-in-law a little bit more.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. He always seems to hate. I don't even know. Has Mark, the outie Mark, do you think he's read the book?
I don't know. Probably not. He seems like a very hipster guy.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to want to read the book. I just don't understand how everybody's so okay with people from Lumen showing up to their house like this. Like, I like what I do. But if I had some coworkers just randomly show up at my house, I'd be like, dude, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not cool.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the goats. That's what everybody came here for, the goats. We still don't have an answer of what the goats are for, but we now know there's like a department of like 25 people dealing with these goats. And they're called, I think they're called Mammalians Nurturable. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Led by, what did you say her name was? Lorne?
Lorne is what Apple Insights tells us.
Lorne, who's played by the actress who played Brienne of Tarth in Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because the guy with the black goat suit kind of looked like, not really, but looked like the guy who was obsessed with her, the wildling.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it kind of does. That's funny.
Just a little bit, not a lot.
A little.
Yeah.
I mean, in the sense that, it's just some weirdo wearing a goat
I'm not sure how
costume.
I'm not sure how important this scene is in the grand scheme of things, other than the fact that there is kind of a sizable army in that department. And they've also seen Miss Casey,
Mm-hmm.
who would do her sessions in their husbandry tanks, so she kind of met them where they were. But I do wonder why Lorne was so hesitant to tell this information to Mark. And I think that's where the importance comes in.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. Like first of all, yeah, these 20 people look like a bunch of psycho warriors in there. Like, I thought they just, for a moment I was like, maybe these people aren't even severed. They just actually live in here with the goats.
I don't think that's
where I thought that was.
I wondered the same thing. Like, how do these people get to their department? Like, do they also come down to the elevator, or do they have their own entrance? I was thinking that the whole time. But they did promise not to hinder Mark's search, so we'll see what happens with that. And they seem to approve of their bellies. So I guess they had some sort of theories about the other department people. Maybe that they had pouched bellies. Or maybe they have pouched bellies and we have no idea, like kangaroos.
Yeah, that'd be a weird trip.
Yeah.
How would you explain that to your Audi? Just like,
I don't know.
wake up one day and you're like, you got a pouched belly. Like,
I'm not sure these people have Audis, to be honest with you.
I mean, it doesn't seem like, honestly, it does not seem like it. It seems like these people have been locked in this room with goats for like the last 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not
Very animalistic individuals.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Where do you think Cobell goes from here? Because she does leave Lumen HQ, which Helena had everything under control until Cobell turned around and left. So where is she heading to?
I would assume that maybe I've always kind of had this feeling in my gut that she would help Mark in some way. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Like, I think I'd like to see her team up with one of the Audis. Probably it would have to be Mark, I guess, at this point, because he's reintegrated, and just like take down Lumen from the inside, like something weird like that. That's the best I can figure. What do you think?
I think she's going to be this character who kind of just sticks around the entire series and go from... I don't know if she'll ever be just a protagonist in some sense, because she obviously wants to see Operation Cold Harbor through to the end. But I also think she knows that she can't trust Lumen anymore. So yeah. I don't know where that leaves her.
Maybe she's going to run off and go to a competitor.
I don't think there is a competitor in this world, man. I think you're looking for that, but I don't think there is one.
I mean, it does very, very much feel like we just live in Lumen land.
Dude, Keir feels like, what's the name of the Emperor from Foundation?
I knew you were gonna say that. Well, it's the brothers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dawn, Dusk, and Day.
Yeah, but they have a name.
Brother Day.
What is the original one's name? We can look it up. It's super famous.
Yeah.
But as you do that, I think that maybe she'll go find Mark, and then she'll see that it's reintegrated Mark. And she does seem to have a soft spot regarding his wife, and maybe that's where that comes into play. But we also have to learn more about Asal and what her role is in this, because she obviously used to work for Lumen.
Yeah. Emperor Cleon.
Cleon.
It's not a name that sticks with me.
No, but the last name Egan and Cleon kind of goes together. Cleon, Egan. Doesn't it feel kind of like it?
It feels like it could be sort of like a first name, last name situation.
Or a double name. Cleon. Okay, so did you think Cobell was leading to her death when that mysterious board meeting was about to be put together?
In a sense, yes. In a sense that I still think that she's severed and they would have just flipped off one half of her personality or one part of her being, which would have killed that version of her. So yeah, I didn't think they were like literally going to brutally murder her or anything like that. It was just going to be like flipping the switch for the safeguard, because she has all of this information. We got to turn it off. She's not taking the promotion. She's trying to quit.
Yeah. Probably one of the more interesting. I mean, everybody's storyline is so interesting in this right now.
Yeah, it is.
Let's talk about the procedure. Asal, what's her end game here? It seems to be that she just wants to take down Lumen Industries.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. I wonder if she has worked with Irv at all, because Irv seems to have this. I mean, he's always had like these two worlds in his head that kind of collide. I mean, like with all the visions of the goo seeping in, and then as an innie, and then his Audi painting this hall. So maybe she's just a device to try and get people a little farther. I don't think she's going to be that relevant going forward. I feel like this was the purpose that she served. Maybe Lumen will find her and crack down on what she's been doing now.
It's tough to tell. She's obviously doing it very discreetly. Otherwise, I think Drummond would have been at her door, ready to freaking kill her. But I'm not sure. I don't have much more to add. I was really impressed by the end procedure sequence of just the lines aligning, the editing between Innie and Audi Mark, the completing each other's sentences, and just that whole sequence was just incredible to me. Ending with the "Who are you?" right?
Yeah. No, it was a great shot. I love how seamless it felt as we were kind of flipping and flickering between these two versions of Mark. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like the opening sequence, which I have not analyzed very closely yet.
No, not too much. I did see some behind the scenes of it, so I do know how they did a lot of it, but I did find that the procedure felt a little bit too convenient. Like, you have this... I mean, they literally... What do they say last episode? They circumcised your brain type of thing?
Yeah.
Right? They did like a really intense thing inside of your brain that you could just get it back with a signal like that. It was interesting to me.
It did seem a little easy. Maybe this is like not a permanent thing, right? Like in the sense that like these two brain waves will begin to separate again, and he's gonna have to like go back for this procedure. I don't know, but I do agree. It did kind of feel a little.
I do, yeah.
A little easy. Like I would have expected maybe a little more of like a build up of like.
Yeah.
Him deciding to do this, not just like an instant like, yeah, let's reintegrate.
It was just like I said in the instant reaction, I think, which was just like, hey, if you're gonna try to convince a guy, why don't you just tell him his dead wife is in the place that he works and that he forgets all his memories, and that you can bring his memories back to him and he could potentially go find his wife, I kind of tend to think as well that this won't be a permanent switch over, that she'll have to do this again and it'll have like a limited time, but who knows? I would be shocked that there's like that is the end of Innie and Audi Mark being two separate people. I would be sort of shocked if that's the case going into episode 4.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out soon.
Yeah.
I this is, sometimes I just can't wait for the next episode, and this is one of those times. Like I really wish it was coming out tomorrow.
Well, you're gonna have to, pal. You're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Shall we get to categories?
Let's do it.
Hey, before we do, take a moment right now if you haven't so far, because I look at these analytics on our YouTube and I see that like 80, I think it's like 70 to 80% of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel. So if you'd like to do us a favor, join us forever. Subscribe. Actually, you could unsubscribe whenever you want, but if you are enjoying it, we do this for free at the moment, so reward us with your subscription.
We appreciate it. And comments. Like comment. Let us know what you think.
I mean, we would do this for free anyways, to be honest, but if we're trying to grow the reach, you got to do it. So
yeah,
we've been putting a lot of micro content out there too, guys. So if you like those, keep on. Let us know. Comment on them. Let us know what you think. We're just kind of cranking out more content. And then, side note, I was interviewed on a friend of mine's, two buddies of mine. They have a podcast called Café Compad, and that was a almost 2-hour conversation, just kind of reminiscing and talking about life and careers and all that. So if you want to check that out, we'll link that in the show notes as well. This episode, if you want to check out my interview there.
Awesome. Well, let's hop into some categories, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's start with favorite character of the episode.
Good question. I'm going to say Mark.
Right?
I'm going to say Mark.
It is hard to deviate from Mark, right? Like, I think the stars of this episode were probably Dylan and Mark for the most part. Like, everybody else played a slightly smaller role.
Yeah, agreed.
I'll agree. It is hard for me to pick somebody else other than Mark in this, especially for an episode that's so pivotal for the character. I mean, he's literally reintegrated now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, agreed.
We'll give that to him. How about favorite scenes? I feel like this one's gonna be pretty obvious.
Favorite scene has to be the reintegration scene. The whole car, that whole sequence, finding out that she's alive, all that has to have been it.
It's hard to top that. I think the next best thing, though, is the scene of all the goats, and probably more specifically the extra herd of people walking over the hill.
I felt that scene was a little empty. I felt like there was a lot of style over substance in that scene. At least right now, there's more questions than answers. So in terms of like a very strong scene, I thought this was more memorable.
And I think that's a perfectly fair summary of that, because the reason that scene sticks out to me is not because of anything I learned. It is simply because of the way it looks. It's a very shocking look. All right, let's hop into best lines of the episode. I do have a few that I wrote down.
I'm sure we have the same one, which is Helena saying to Cobell, I think you overestimated your contributions and underestimated your blessings.
That is one of my three, yeah. That one, that one's probably the best line. The other two I thought were kind of funny. The first one was just Mark's little humorous, careful, there's poop.
Yeah.
But
you always like the simple lines, like the little random ones I don't even think about.
Anything that just makes me chuckle as I'm watching the show, especially when there's this element of seriousness to it and mystery. Like, yeah, I'm gonna probably take note of the funny ones, which also leads me into my second favorite one, which was between Dylan and his apparently wife, where he's just like, he dumb?
Oh, he dumb.
That
was good. that must have been improv. There's no way that was the line. That was great though. He dumb?
The delivery of that. He dumb? Like, oh, that was phenomenal.
It's also not even how he speaks either, like as the innie, which is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say a different one where he goes. We got a reminder of their innocence, where he goes, "So we're cattle ranchers."
Oh yeah, that was hilarious too. What was up with that?
Well,
they're just like, and that was something else that made me think that this was all fake too. Because I'm like, man, they've got this woman in here leading them on, like, oh yeah, you're outie. It's like, Jesus, let us down, like, work hard for us, buddy.
It was one of those things. I'm assuming they're paying her money to go visit him, which is the reason she agreed to do it, if I had to guess, because they seem to be tight on funds. But I think it's like this kind of weird loophole. Like, what memories did they bring over from the outside world, and which ones do they not have? So it seems like he knows what a cattle ranch is, but he doesn't know about a fake photo booth type place where you go and take these fake costume photos. You get me? So like he knows his general knowledge stuff, but he doesn't know that there's a business that you can go take these photos and pretend to be a cattle rancher, right? Similar to the same way Mark doesn't seem to realize that everything he's doing is leading to the end of his own being, his own existence. Any Mark. And everything he's doing is like with the intent of never, like he will not exist, and he does not seem to be comprehending that. And that kind of just speaks to their thinking that they will exist, outside or whatever it is that's going through his head. I don't think he has contemplated the fact that it's leading to his own death in some way.
Yeah, I really don't think he has either. But well, maybe it's not though, because he's reintegrated. So
yeah,
who knows? Anyways, any other closing thoughts or predictions on where we're going from here?
No, I think I've already said a lot in this episode of predictions. I would just be talking to talk if I said anything else right now.
For sure. All right, y'all. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for listening to this episode of Severance by Story Archives. You can find this podcast anywhere you find podcasts, Apple and Spotify podcasts primarily. You can visit us on YouTube at Soapbox Podcast Network. Visit our website at soapbox.house. Email us at contact@soapbox.house. And if you want to catch up with us on social media, you'll find links out to our profiles on the website.
Cool. We will see you guys on next week's episode of Severance.
But before you go, show us your bellies. Please don't. Please don't.
Please don't. Get that out of here. Now we're going to get emails of people's bellies. Great.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be this influx of photos. It's going to be hilarious.
Oh, we didn't go over any comments, but
we'll save it. Oh,
okay.
Let's build it up. Build up some anticipation here.
All right. See you guys next time.
Peace.